Okay, welcome back to this lesson. So we already looked at how to insert rows. That was our C, okay, for create, the C in CRUD. So I want to use this video to look at the update, the U, and the D, the delete. Okay, so let's see how we can update a row of data that is currently in our database. So far, we have 4 rows of data. So let's say I wanted to, let's see here, select category. Okay. Let's say I wanted to change life for the first row to success. Okay. So that means I have to do an update. And so I know my ID is 1. I know I need to change category. So how do we go about doing that? Well, we need to do an update. So what I'm going to do right now, I want to comment this out, okay, so that we don't get too confused. Okay. All right. So this is our code that we were using to do inserts. So let's come under, okay, and let's say we're going to update. Okay, update a record. All right, so once you know what to insert, then to update is pretty straightforward. We do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to create a variable named update quote, okay, and that will hold my SQL statement, okay. Excuse me. So to update, we simply say update, right? Name of the table, quotations. And what do we want to change? Well, we're going to set category to be equal to some new value, right? So I use a placeholder. And I'm going to specify a filter. So where quotation underscore ID is actually some other value. All right. And I'm going to have the Postgres return the quotation ID to me for me to verify. So returning, okay, returning quotation ID. Okay. All right. So this is my SQL statement. So it's telling me I'm not using it, but that's okay. All right. So I have my variable that contains my statement. Update the quotations table, set the category to be some value where the quotation ID is some other value. And then I want the quotation ID to be returned. Okay, so if you recall, all we need to do, let's create a quotation ID variable. Okay, all right. That's where we'll store our answer that is returned. But we need to actually execute this thing. So let's execute. So we're going to say error is assigned to db dot query row. And we're going to pass in update quote. And we're going to pass in the values. So we want it to be success. Okay, not life. And we want the quotation ID that to be changed is quotation ID 1. Okay, and then we want to have the value returned. So we're going to say scan and the address of quotation ID. Okay, so we'll be able to verify which row was actually updated. Now, of course, if we have an error returned, we must check. Okay, so if the error that is returned is not nil, something went bad. So I'm going to say log, something went wrong actually, fatal, an error. And I'm going to exit. However, if we skip that, meaning error is nil, then I know that my row was updated successfully. And so I could simply say fmt that print ln the recently updated record has ID, and I could then say quotation ID. All right, and so I could verify. I could just create my terminal. Okay, and then I could say go run main.go, and let's see. And it tells me that the recently updated record has ID 1. And let's verify. We had life, and so if I run this query again, I get success. Okay. All right, so it means our change worked, and that's how we would update a record or a row that is always that is already in the database. All right, so let's look at how we can actually delete a row that is in our database. Okay, so again, it's pretty much the same. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to comment the update we just did. Okay, again, I just want to sort of right. So I commented out the insert, I commented out the update. So now we just want to focus on the deleting part, and it follows the same pattern really. All we have to do is create our statement or prepare our statement. So I'm going to say delete quote, okay, will be some statement. And so I'm going to say, right, backticks. Okay, my statement is delete. Okay, delete what? We're going to delete from quotation table. Okay, so delete from quotations where the quotation underscore ID is some value. Okay, we have to start from 1. And let's return that as well. So let's return what was deleted, the ID, just to verify. Okay, so returning quotation ID, and that's it. That's how we delete a table. So all we need to do is to create a variable quotation. Again, I'm going to call it quotation ID. I'm going to set it to 0. This will contain our return value. And then I'm just going to simply run my query row again. So db that query row. I'm going to provide the variable that contains my SQL. And I'm going to provide the value that will replace the $1, which is 1 in this case. So I want that row that has quotation ID 1 to be deleted. And so I'm going to say, okay, that's scan, okay, because I want back the row that was deleted so that I can check to make sure it was the correct row. And I'm going to check for error again. Okay, and notice this is a recurring theme in Go programming. You do something, you check the error message that was returned just to see that everything was okay. And everything is okay, then you proceed. If there was some problem, then you stop. That's just a pattern. Okay. All right. And the good thing about the Go documentation, it tells you if you call a function, it tells you if the function returns any error message, which you can then check for. All right. Okay. So if there is no error, it means that we will pass this line, and then it means that I'll just copy this. It means that we had a successful deletion, and then I can simply say the recently deleted record had ID whatever. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of mistake here. What is it saying? Oh, okay, yeah. All right, so teaching moment. I have already used this variable. I have used this variable at the beginning, right? See, here. This was the first time I used this variable. So it was here that I declared it. Okay. After you have declared a variable, you cannot declare it again since it's already been declared. All you can do is to assign something new to it by using the equal sign. Okay. Always remember that, especially with the error variable, because we tend to reuse the error variable. Okay, so currently we have this, all right, 4 rows. And if we execute our program, it tells me the recently deleted row had ID 1. Let's verify. If I run my command again, I now have 3 rows. Okay, the one that was success, that has been deleted. Okay. All right. So that's how we do the C. And that's how we do the U. And that's how we do the D. Okay, so all that's left for us is to deal with the R, which is how do we do things like what we do here, where we issue queries to get back answers from database. Okay, so that's what we'll focus on in the next couple lessons. How do we do the R, which is read. All right, and once we finish that, then it means we are ready to actually take what we know and create a web application whereby we will create a form whereby you actually fill in the form, you press submit, and that quote will be entered into the database. All right, and then of course we will be able to get a listing of all of the quotes in a nice web page, and we'll also be able to sort those quotes based on maybe the category or maybe the insertion date or maybe the author name and so on. All right, so there's plenty to do in this week's lesson, but it all starts with being able to work with Go and Postgres. Once you can do that, that's a big chunk of our work done. All right, so I'll see you in the next lesson.